We're going to talk about the classic bouncing ball test, but I'm going to apply the principles that I've already been experimenting with, like tweens and ease in and ease out. Let's go. So I've already experimented with ease in and ease out with the Kudu animation logo. I posted those on Facebook and on Instagram. I'll share those links here. But today we're going to jump into timing and squash and stretch, some other principles that are going to help give our animation a little more life. So we're going to apply some of these principles to a bouncing ball. So we're going to use timing to help give weight to the ball. We're going to use squash and stretch to help give volume to the ball as it's bouncing. I understand these principles, but let's put them into practice.
Okay, I'm going to speed this process up a little bit, but basically start off, I need a ball to bounce. Let's come in here, create a ball, give it a little bit of stroke so we can see it. There we go. Once I get stroke added to it, we're going to convert this to a shape, save this into our library, and then we're going to do our timing on here. We got to give it a keyframe. This is where we want it to bounce. All right, first position, second position, and then the upstroke, another keystroke. And let's go ahead and move it up. We can zoom in with the onion skinning on. We can get our start location back, so it'll be an even flow. Once we do this, let's test it out. And that's kind of boring. We're going to add the tweens in. There we go. Once we get the classic tweens, the onion skinning, it's a little bit hard to see. Let's bring that in. There we go. Now we can kind of see where their steps are. This is simple enough. Everything is even spaced. This actually works, but let's loop it and get it back to normal. Technically, we're animating a bouncing ball, but it's extremely boring. So what we need to do is we're going to copy this layer over so that we can have we can do a test. What we want is to add some ease in and ease out so it looks a little more natural. What this is going to allow is for it to look a little bit smoother. All right, let's move our objects over so we can actually see between the two of them. All right, let's go right about here. All right, same measurements. First, last, let's test this out. What do we got going on here? All right, start. So what we're going to do first off is do our ease in, ease out. There's a number of generic ones. Let's just try basic ease in and see what it does. All right. Bottom, let's go back up. Clearly I've done something wrong. All right. Let's come back here and try this again. Select our object. Frame, I don't know what's going on here. All right, let's try this again. Let's just make our own. All right, pull it down. There we go. That's a little bit better. Let's kind of slow this down, count it out. Where do we want? We're going to go here. All right, stop that. All right, if you look at the tweens, we can see that it's slow in. All right, what I'm looking at is trying to do the slow out. So we're going to have to do the exact same thing. Let's see, select my keyframe. Let's do the one before it. There we go. We can make another ease out. Look at that. All right, there we go. It's slow in, slow out. What I'm going to try to do here is when it gets to the bottom, though, I want it to kind of have a bounce. It's going to go faster as it's going down. I want it to pop when it comes up. We're going to see some of these curves. Clearly, none of the prefab ones are going to work, so we're going to make our own. All right, let's experiment with these going back. What I'm doing is just moving the curve around, trying to see if I can find the right spot to make it pop when it comes up. I want it to slowly go down to the bottom, or normal speed. Once it hits the bottom, I want that kinetic energy to push that ball up. And I'm not getting that. What I'm getting is an even speed here. What it should do is when it hits the bottom and comes back up, it should spring up that energy, or it should release. This goes on for several minutes with me trying to get that pop right at the very end. So bear with me as I try to work through this. Okay, around about in here, I kind of get what I want, which is more spacing on the bounce up, which makes it look like the ball is popping a little bit more at the end. Truly, I actually get the space in there, and me being me, I just can't leave well enough alone, so I got to go in here and jack with it a little bit. I go in there and muck with the curves a little bit more, but ultimately come down to kind of leave it where it is and let sleeping dogs lie. I think I'm about as good as I'm going to get. All right, I'm going to go through the basic same process, duplicate the layer over so that we can start adding the squash and stretch. I don't want it to be overlapping the previous one, so we can see the differences, especially when I start onion skinning to see steps. Here I am just moving the components over, making sure my measurements are the same. That's why I applied the rulers. Once I get that done, it's going to still have that same timing from the original layer. So for the next few minutes, what I'm going to do is start adding in some keyframes. I know that I need to start changing the shape of the object to make it thinner as it's going faster or squashing at the bottom. And I need a couple keyframes in place so that I can adjust the shape as I'm trying to work on the ease in and the ease outs moving forward. And that's what I'll be doing for the next couple minutes here. By this time I was getting a little bit frustrated as I was adding the squash and the stretch to the third ball. I was moving the keyframes around and I was losing my timing, and that's what all of this is here, is I'm trying to figure out why the third ball is not matching up with the timing. I just couldn't wrap my brain around the ease in and ease outs functioning between keyframes, not the beginning and end of the sequence. So what I was doing here is I was spending a lot of time looking at the onion skinning, trying to figure my timing out. I had gotten that pop that I wanted on the second ball, but when I added the squash and stretch, it just was not working, and I broke my poor little brain trying to figure out why the keyframes were not working with the ease in and the ease out the way I thought it should. I eventually figured it out down the way. We'll get to that in a minute. So I was focusing here on the bounce up. It just seemed too uniform for me. I had completely lost the snap that I wanted, and it just didn't look like there was any ease in and ease out. So I was working on that here. Here's a little side note. Not sure what I did. I hit a key and I turned my workboard, which is actually very much like what animators on paper would do. They'd rotate their page around. I didn't actually realize you could do this till I accidentally did it. Luckily, I was able to figure out how to straighten it pretty quickly, but that's a tidbit of information I'm going to tuck in my brain for later. And right about here is where it hit me that the placement of the object on the keyframe would solve all of my problems. It dawned on me that the keyframe locks the object position and the timing together. I don't know why I didn't think of that earlier, but once I made that epiphany, everything just fell into place. Alright, so I was pretty satisfied with the bounce I finally achieved with the squash and stretch, and I started working on separating my layers. I wanted each ball to be displayed individually, then all together at the end. This is when I discovered that layers in Adobe Animate do not work the same way that they work in Illustrator or Photoshop. Similar concept, but definitely the way objects interact with the layers is not quite what I thought. So I had a fun time trying to get all the objects where they should have been. It dawned on me that what I could have done is just copy the frames and paste them where I needed it to, instead of trying to drag and drop and move everything the way I was. But live and learn. As you can see in the video, I had some struggles with them. I understand the concept, but putting those concepts into practical application was a completely different story. Most of this was getting used to the software, understanding key points of how the animation cycle actually works. But the struggle's real. That's why we're here, to learn and to move on. I hope you enjoyed everything. Please hit the like button. It does help. Moving into this next week, I'm going to start looking at arcs and how I can use that to help the animation process a little bit. I hope you've enjoyed everything. If you want to continue on, please hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time.